You might think that being an American opens doors everywhere, but that's not always the case. In fact, there are some destinations where U.S. citizens might not receive the warmest welcome. While the world loves its American stars, there are still a few places where the red carpet is rolled up. So, if you're curious about which 10 countries are keeping Americans at arm's length in 2024, hit that like button and help us reach 5,000 likes on this video.
Beg you, people and government of the DPR Korea, for your forgiveness. Please.
10. Myanmar. As of 2024, Myanmar, a Southeast Asian nation home to nearly 55 million people, isn't exactly rolling out the red carpet for Americans. The strained relationship can be traced back to the military coup in February 2021, which plunged the country into ongoing chaos. Civil unrest and armed conflict have become the grim realities of daily life. For Americans contemplating a visit, it's not just about packing a suitcase. Navigating the visa process is like trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces. The visa alone takes at least 3 business days to process, but once you arrive, U.S. travel advisories all but scream, "Turn back." Warnings range from arbitrary law enforcement to minimal healthcare infrastructure, making Myanmar a high-risk destination. And to top it off, U.S.-imposed sanctions on Myanmar don't exactly paint Americans as beloved visitors. It's more like showing up at a party where your name's been scratched off the guest list. Yemen. At number 9 is Yemen, a nation with around 30 million people, but it's not one where Americans are likely to get a warm reception. Yemen has been caught in the grip of a brutal conflict since 2015, resulting in one of the world's most severe humanitarian crises. For Americans, the warnings are crystal clear. Civil unrest, terrorism, kidnappings, and outright war are enough to steer most people away. Getting a visa? It's almost a mission impossible. Yemen's strict policies, combined with its volatile state, make it an extremely difficult place for tourism of any kind. Even if you did manage to get a visa, the deep hostility towards Americans, thanks to perceptions of U.S. involvement in the ongoing conflict, ensures that Yemen won't be topping any travel bucket lists anytime soon. If you're looking for a peaceful getaway, Yemen is definitely not it. Somalia. At number 8 is Somalia, a nation with a population of around 15 million. This country presents a complex challenge for American visitors. The frosty reception Americans might experience can be traced back to political instability and security concerns. In May 2022, President Joe Biden authorized the redeployment of U.S. soldiers to combat al-Shabaab insurgents. While this move aimed to bolster security, it hasn't exactly endeared Americans to the local populace. Navigating the visa process is like trying to thread a needle on a roller coaster. Difficult but not impossible. The bureaucracy can be a maze, and security risks are significant. Adding to the challenge is the severe humanitarian crisis, with millions displaced and struggling for essentials. It's not exactly the ideal setting for a warm welcome. Venezuela. Number 7 is Venezuela, home to over 28 million people. The relationship between the U.S. and Venezuela is fraught with tension, characterized by economic sanctions, political disputes, and mutual mistrust. As of August 2023, Venezuela's dire economic situation has driven more than 7.7 million people to leave, highlighting the severe hardships faced by many Venezuelans. For Americans, obtaining a visa is a convoluted process that involves navigating a system that can be wary or outright hostile. Once there, the high cost of living and tense atmosphere make everyday interactions delicate and uneasy. With around 23,000 U.S. citizens residing in Venezuela, primarily in Caracas, there is a sense of being unwelcome guests in a country deeply divided by political and economic strife. Libya. Number 6 is Libya. As of 2024, this North African country is home to about 7 million people. But if you're holding an American passport, you might want to think twice before planning a visit. The U.S. Department of State has issued a stern "Do not travel" warning for Libya, citing concerns like crime, terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The relationship between the U.S. and Libya has been anything but smooth. The 2012 attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi was a major turning point, ramping up security fears and making Libya a tricky destination for American travelers. Securing a visa is a Herculean task, and Libyan authorities have an additional wrinkle. They don't allow entry to passports with Israeli stamps. All these factors make Libya a challenging place for Americans to explore. Syria. Number 5 is Syria, with its deep cultural roots and historical significance, which has unfortunately been overshadowed by the ravages of conflict in recent years. This nation, battling the harsh realities of civil war, is also off limits for American travelers. The U.S. has issued a Level 4 travel advisory for Syria due to risks like terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The relationship between Syria and the U.S. is fraught with tension, thanks to a complex web of geopolitical disputes, sanctions, and military actions. Securing a visa to Syria is notoriously difficult, reflecting the strained relations between the two countries. Even if you manage to navigate the convoluted visa process, the environment can be hostile and unwelcoming, partly due to ongoing conflict and general suspicion towards foreigners, particularly Americans. The U.S.'s involvement in regional politics has only exacerbated these tensions, making Syria a particularly challenging destination. Number 4 is Russia. With the Russian invasion of Ukraine, visiting Russia is pretty much off the board for Americans. But even before this conflict, Americans often needed to jump through many hoops to cross the border. Visas are only granted prior to arrival, and you need an invitation letter from someone in the country to even apply for a visa. Once acquired, you then fill out a lengthy visa application. It requires you to indicate every country you have visited for the last 10 years, your education history, parents' names, where you have worked, and even professional organizations you are a member of. After all that, you hope your passport comes back with a valid visa. Iraq. Number 3 is Iraq, with its vibrant population of around 40 million, has had a rocky history with the United States. The turbulence began in 2003, when the U.S. led an invasion under the guise of searching for weapons of mass destruction. Since then, relations between the two nations have been anything but straightforward. So, why do Americans find it so challenging to visit Iraq? First, the visa process feels like solving a Rubik's Cube while blindfolded. Though Americans can obtain a visa upon arrival at the airport, securing an exit stamp is often a complex task. The visa application process is a lengthy affair, typically taking around 12 working days to complete and requiring a valid passport. It's less about a warm welcome and more about proving you deserve entry. But it's not just the bureaucratic maze that can make Americans feel unwelcome. The security situation in Iraq is akin to walking a tightrope over a canyon. With reports of government officials engaging in torture and the presence of various armed factions, the country's struggle with stability is glaringly evident. This backdrop of uncertainty and danger underscores why navigating Iraq as an American is fraught with challenges. Number 2 is Iran. With a population of around 83 million, Iran is a country rich in ancient history and stunning landscapes. But its intricate relationship with the United States often makes it a challenging destination for American travelers. The frosty vibe between the two nations harks back to the 1979 Iran hostage crisis, when Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, leading to a 444-day standoff. Fast forward to today, and the U.S. State Department's Level 4 travel advisory essentially means, proceed with caution. Why the stern warning? For starters, there's the persistent risk of terrorism and civil unrest. And, perhaps most unsettling, the arbitrary arrest and detention of U.S. citizens is not unheard of. Americans, especially those with dual nationality, can find themselves behind bars on charges ranging from espionage to threatening national security. Securing a visa to Iran can feel like navigating a labyrinth. If you're American, you might wait 1 to 3 months just to hear back about your application, and the embassy wait can stretch from a few days to 2 weeks, depending on the cosmic alignment. Once you finally get your visa and land in Iran, don't expect to use your Visa or MasterCard. Cash reigns supreme, and bartering is practically a national sport. Despite these challenges, Iran has its own undeniable charm. From Tehran's bustling markets to the ancient ruins of Persepolis, there's a treasure trove of culture and history waiting to be explored. Just remember, while Iranians are renowned for their hospitality. Navigating this politically complex and diverse country requires extra caution. Number 1 is North Korea. North Korea, officially the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, is home to around 25 million people. This isolated nation is like that reclusive neighbor who never joins the neighborhood barbecue but keeps a keen eye on everything from their window. The relationship between North Korea and the US is fraught with tension, marred by decades of political strife, nuclear threats, and an unresolved war since the 1953 armistice. So, why are Americans so unwelcome in North Korea? The US government strongly advises against traveling there due to the severe risk of arrest and prolonged detention. The tragic case of Otto Warmbier, an American student who fell into a coma and later died after being detained for allegedly attempting to steal a propaganda poster, underscores the extreme dangers involved. Traveling to North Korea isn't exactly a walk in the park. Since September 2017, U.S. citizens are largely barred from using their passports to enter the country, except under very specific conditions. Before this ban, obtaining a visa was like pulling teeth. You had to go through specialized travel agencies and be part of tightly controlled tour groups, always accompanied by a guide to ensure you don't stray from the prescribed path. Even if you manage to get in, the experience is tightly regulated. There are strict rules about what you can see, do, and photograph. Chatting with locals without authorization is illegal, and making any jokes about the leadership could land you in serious trouble. The level of control in North Korea can be hard for many Americans to grasp, especially given our emphasis on freedom of speech and movement. Visiting North Korea is like treading on eggshells while blindfolded. Every step feels precarious. The combination of a restrictive visa process, the risk of misunderstanding, and the pervasive surveillance make it a daunting destination. Yet, the allure of the forbidden can be tempting. Just remember, curiosity might kill the cat, and in North Korea, you might not have 9 lives to spare.